Hi, I'm Madonna and this is Shelby, and this time we're going to talk about stacking. Stacking is a very weird beast. It's how we store energy in the art of kinesiology. In straight Touch for Health, so Touch for Health is a whole module on it in its own, they use the gluteus medius muscle and they use that one alone. And it works very, very effectively, and I can use the hips, you can use the hips, so therefore we could get two stacks going on. A stack is basically a storage of information, and there's several sort of things you can do. It can be like a snapshot, or it can be like a video recording, depending on what you're doing. So therefore, I definitely stack everything. I can't help myself. When you're watching any of my videos, that's the clicking. You know, when people are hearing the clicking in the background, that is my feet. You know, they are moving and I am stacking everything. When you see me doing these things that people ask whether they're gang signs, they ask whether they are signs of the devil, all sorts of weird things. But basically, the whole point of stacking, so we talked about spindle cells. So spindle cells are in the belly of all muscles, and they have information about how locked or unlocked a muscle should be. So like I've said, muscles are constantly switching on and switching off all day long as we're moving. Now, we deliberately manipulate those spindle cells in kinesiology to store information. So the favourite ways that I have are the glute medius in the side of the hips, the opponens pollicus, which is in the hand, and we also use the pterygoid muscles in the jaw. So they're the three core areas. When you get good at stacking, you simply swap from one to another, so that you can walk around the room, so that you can basically do all sorts of things as well as talk to the client. So when I first learnt stacking 20 years ago, it was very much along the lines of doing this. So you would touch the person as you were talking, you would open your mouth, and then at the same time the mouth was open, you would put your feet together, put your feet apart, so it would look like this. And then you could close your mouth. And then whatever I had stacked from you was in my hips. But of course you look like a bit of a demented goldfish. So, but the jaw is really important, but you can do it with the people often don't notice it when I do it, because I do it with my mouth closed, because you can still open your jaw and close your jaw with your mouth shut. So you don't need to look as silly as some people do. But so firstly, I want to make sure that the glute medius muscles, once again, we want to make sure they're working, because we can't use them if they're not working properly. So the way that you test the glute medius, so that's that little muscle there, you want it to be shorter. So pull the leg out, see, lengthen, shorten. So that's shortening the muscle by pulling it out. Now, it needs to be flat to the table. What will often happen with a weak muscle, as the muscle will try to go into a better position for itself. So sometimes if you do that, but the body knows that that's weak, it can automatically do that. It will put itself into a position that makes it stronger. So the correct glute medius test is keeping the heel on the table and pulling it out to the side. And then you want about 60 centimetres between the 2 feet, and I'm going to ask you to hold the foot out, and I'm pushing into the centre. So that's working beautifully. So now we're going to check the right one. So once again, the legs are in the centre of the table. Keep the left one where it is. Pull the right one out, 60 centimetres out, and hold out. Beautiful. So they're both locking, which means, actually, we don't know if they're unlocking, so let's check. Now, though in Chinese medicine, those two relate to the central no, they don't. They relate to the sex meridian. So the circulation of the sex organs, it's also known as the pericardium meridian. Now, the meridian runs from the outside of the breast tissue on men and women, and it comes up over the shoulder and it goes down to the fingers. So that's the direction of the meridian. So you can imagine if we run it in the correct direction, that's going to add energy to it. So in order to find out if they're working, we need to see if they unlock with a little bit of stress. So I'm going to run the meridian on the right side backwards 3 times, and then I'll check. And I'll do it within 2 seconds, so I don't need to stack this. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3. And hold out for me, hold, and that's unlocking. And now if I wait 2 seconds once again, and hold, it's relocked itself. So things really do reset themselves. You don't need to worry you're going to switch someone off and hurt them when you start doing this. So once again, we'll make sure the left one's working. So just running that meridian backwards and hold. Beautiful. Oh, that one didn't unlock, sorry. So the right one unlocked, but the left one didn't. So what do we need to do? So it can be overworking because it's stressed. So because it's to do with circulation, it has been chilly. Have you been suffering with the cold at all?
My right ankle had a chill in it yesterday that hasn't gone away.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So there might be something going on within the circulation. So what we need to do is basically we'll run that meridian, we'll flush it. So that means we're going to go the correct direction backwards. And you tend to do this about 5, 6, 7 times. So if there's anything going on with that meridian that's blocked, we want to end up with it going in the correct direction. Because even though that seems like we're adding energy, sometimes muscles are overworking because they're bullies. So therefore they need support. So they don't need to be a bully. So now once again, we'll run it backwards 3 times again. And hold. Yeah, so that time it unlocked. Beautiful. Waiting a couple of seconds. And hold. Excellent. So we've got 2 working glute medius muscles. That, once again, that's a bit of an advanced technique. Most of the time in a lot of basic kinesiology courses, you simply get taught if muscles lock, it's a good thing. But muscles can be overworking. It's just good to be aware of it. It's just good to be aware of it. Now, the next little muscle, we use is the jaw. And then the third one we use is the opponens pollicis. So with this little guy, the jaw pretty much can't really test that because most of the time there's not really a test for the jaw, whereas this little guy we can. So I want you to hold your thumb and your pinky together and hold. Did that feel strong?
No.
No?
But I've got issues. So.
Okay. And hold together. Did that one feel stronger?
Yeah.
Okay. So with that muscle, it relates to the spleen meridian. Now the spleen meridian runs from the big toe, and there will be pictures of these, of course, in the module. So basically we want to run that meridian several times. And then so you can flush it, sort of going up and down the meridian, and then I always finish with the correct direction 3 times. Once again, let's see and hold. That's feeling stronger. And that one felt okay.
Yeah.
So now, just to make sure that it unlocks, we can use, you can use lots of things to unlock it. So just for fun, I might unlock the brain meridian and hold together. Okay, and then because this central meridian, in underneath the frontal cortex are connections between the brain and the muscles. So if we unlock the central meridian and it unlocks a muscle, it says, yep, we've switched off the frontal cortex. So now the brain and the muscles aren't communicating as well as they should. So once again, run it 3 times and again, hold. Beautiful. Did that feel okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we know that the glute medius are working. We know that the opponens pollicis are working. And we'll assume that the jaw's working. Now, they're the 3 things we really need for stacking to be up and running. So what do we do in a stack? We want to save energy. So initially I'm just going to show the snapshot version of stacking, which means we're going to show an unlock of something. So let's do the switching, because we've gone through that. So this way you can start stacking in your switching, because you don't know whether it's first, second or third stage stress. And I think that's really important to have a concept of that right from the start. So what I'm going to do is put my hand on the navel. I'm going to touch the kidney 27s. I'm going to put my feet together, pull my feet apart, which means I've got simply that stacked into my hip. I've done nothing else, and hold, but they're working well. So that energy is not unlocking, so we know that one's working. Now, once again, I'll get you to touch your tailbone and hand over here. And once again, I'm going to put my feet together, feet apart. That's a simple stack, and hold. And that one's still locking. And now do with that hand, put them above and below your lips. And actually, no, I'm going to stack it in, sorry. Feet together, feet apart, and hold. No. So they're all still working, which is beautifully. But are they first, second, or third stage stress? So we've got them all stacked in. So what we're going to do is push to mush on both sides and hold. That didn't unlock, which means one or all of them are over-facilitated. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically when you store the energy and it doesn't unlock with push to mush, that's a second stage stress. It's like they've gone into hyper-facilitation. So now I'm going to add in the opponent's pollicis and the jaw. So I'm going to ask you, no, I won't use that one. Actually, I might as well. There's something called circuit retaining mode, which I really love. It was taught to me in a process called SIPS, Stress Indicator Point System, about 20 years ago. There's a little spot on the right shoulder, just over that little spot there. So it's sort of like if you go up over the shoulder, there's a little divot in there. Now that little spot there, we need to switch it on, and then that becomes circuit retaining mode, which is like having a video playing. So you sort of slide over the shoulder on the right side, find that little spot. Now here's where we need to switch it on. So I need to do my stack. So feet together, feet apart, that has switched that on. So now, once again, if we then have something that is, okay, do you mind if I say a little about your study? Okay, so Shelby's studying naturopathy at the moment. It's creating a little bit of anxiety. So it's something where, you know, that anxiety can come and go, and sometimes it comes like a freight train, and then it needs to calm down. So I just want you to, and I know we're going to do a little balance around this, but I want you to think about that anxiety, think about the amount of the course there is to come, and how that feels, you know, when it just gets to that spot where it just feels so big. Okay, so now I'm going to switch off this stack, but it will have stored it. Now let's recheck your switching. So these little guys, so I'm going to stack it. So jaw open, feet together, feet apart, and jaw right, and hold. And there goes the brain. No surprise. Tailbone for me, touch the tailbone and hold. Front back's okay. And with this one, these little guys, kidney 27s, and hold. So two parts of the brain have just sort of, you know, had a moment. So just to show what that anti-clockwise switching does, so let's sort of see whether this helps with both of those in relation to the switching. Because what that means is that just the thought of how big it is has created left-right imbalances. It's stopped the top and bottom of, you know, the brain just isn't communicating as well as it was 5 minutes ago. And this is what thoughts do. Thoughts are constantly coming in and out of our lives. If we've got some of these techniques to bring us back into balance again, then we can just be our own kinesiologist and just start that process. Now, it might not correct them, but it might. So, feet together, feet apart. Okay, so I go jaw open, feet together, feet apart. So now I've stored that energy of that. So now let's have another look. So hand on the navel, and actually I'll get you to touch those two up here, and I'll put my hand on your navel and hold. That's beautiful. And now just check those kidney 27s and hold. And now touch the tailbone for me and hold. Okay, so that has rebalanced that out. So that basically means that we've taken a layer of stress off it. Now, each time you take a layer of stress off it, it gets easier for the brain to stay switched on under stress. Now, I know anxiety is like it's a come and go, and you know, it's sort of like this constant flow in our lives. But little bit by little bit, if your brain starts believing you can bring yourself back into balance, the belief is powerful. So it's just a really nice little way of bringing us back. So the stacks. Once again, thinking about the jaw, the opponent's pollicis, open and close. When it's open, you're storing information. So if Shelby just started to chat to me, so once again I'm going to go to circuit retaining mode again. I'm going to open my jaw, put my feet together and feet apart, close my jaw. So that has switched back on the circuit retaining mode. So now, how are you balance-wise?
Oh, not great.
So would you think you are clumsy? Would you think do you bump into things? Do you?
Sometimes when I'm walking, my balance just gives out, and I end up having to lean on a wall or something to make sure I don't tip over.
Right. And it's not blood sugar, it's when you have eaten, and so there's something going, okay.
It just gives out sometimes.
Right, okay. Now you can imagine if we've got anxiety, one of the things that can happen is that because the blood goes away from the frontal cortex, it goes down into rear of the brain, so it's doing the whole fight, flight, tiger thing. So it's like, holy moly, life is stressful, I'd better have all of the blood supply in the rear of my brain. So therefore it can shut down the frontal cortex, and of course that is the area that talks to all your muscles. Is it when you're anxious, or it can be any time?
Yeah, anytime.
Interesting. So nonetheless, I've got all that stored. So by having a chat to Shelby while she's telling me a little bit about that, it means that we can now stack that in so that I've got that little videotape and I'm going to put it in my hip. So once again, jaw open. So the jaw open switches it on. Then I'm going to put my feet together, feet apart, jaw closed, closes the circuit. So
is there a reason it stacks in your hips specifically?
Because there's lots of spindle cells in the glute medius. Yeah. So it's very much about that little muscle in there. Yeah, good question. And because people always think it's about the feet, it's not about the feet. The feet are just putting the feet together and pulling the feet apart. And lots of people are silent stackers. They can do it without making noise. I can't. Or I work fast, so therefore I don't. I probably can, but my energy chooses not to. So yeah, so it is. It's that little one in there. And the distance the feet are apart depends how much information we will store in there, actually. So if we only do a tiny little stack, you know, of say a few inches, we're not going to actually get as much information. But that's sort of why I like to use the combination of the three. With the jaw, the hips, or the opponent's pollicis, something has to be open at all time to keep the stack going. So obviously I can't walk with my feet apart, and I can't talk if I've got something stored in my jaw. So just say I wanted to go to that side of the table, what I can do is simply hold my hands apart. Now let me ask, because you know we just had a chat about your balance. So let me just see whether or not the switching is back out again, just out of curiosity. Because I think this is the sort of stuff that people need to know. You know, switching can come and go, but then you rebalance it again. So once again, those little spots up here, the kidney 27s, I'll touch your navel and hold. Oh, not bad, but not great. Now do this little guy, these ones, top and bottom of the lips, and hold. Okay, that's not great. And now touch your tailbone and hold. That one's not too bad, but it's not 100% either. So none of those are great, just in relation to the little story we had about your balance. So once again, let's go balance it. So hand on your navel and rub your kidney 27s. And if they ever get more tender, tell me too, because sometimes you can be rubbing the same spot, and maybe you find this being a massage therapist as well. Sometimes a spot will be sore 1 minute and not the next, depending on the emotional context of what we've been doing. And then swapping over again. And once again, hand on the navel and rub the tailbone. You really only need to do the swap over once. And swapping again. So I've still got the stack in my hips. And then these little guys. And swapping. Okay. Beautiful. So I've still got that little circuit rotating mode stored in here. Now let's recheck your switching again. So hand on the navel, I'll touch this one and hold. Beautiful. I'll touch these little guys and hold, and now touch your tailbone again.
Wait.
Whichever way you want to. And hold. Cool.
I don't have
Perfect.
enough hands.
No, that's right. And earlier on I was thinking, how do you do this with 3 hands? But yes, you can do it. So it's sort of like that has just, once again, it's just picked up the energy in relation to an imbalance, like being, because feeling like a klutz, feeling out of balance, it then affects other things in our lives. Because it's almost like if you don't have confidence in your feet and your walking in your body, how can you have confidence in other things? So it can end up having an emotional, trickle-on effect. Do you find that sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Has it always been the case, or has it been getting worse, or is it getting better?
That's always been the case, I think.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So it might be something we can have a play with at some stage down the track with these modules as well. Okay, so stacking. The big things to remember are you need to have the jaw or the hips or the hand open at all time. That's where I was getting to, the hand. So once again, we've sort of recorrected that balance. So let's have a think about, all I'll do is switch off the anterior deltoids and I'll stack it in. So once again, make sure they're working. Hold, hold. Now all I'm going to do is do push to mush in the belly of the muscle, and at the moment I do the test, I'm going to open my jaw, put my feet together, pull my feet apart. So that is a stack to for that unlock. So push to mush at the same time as I open the jaw and hold. So that's now unlocking, and I've got it stored. And hold, I haven't done anything with that side, so it's locking. So this is the one over here. It will continue being an unlock until the cows come home or I put my feet together. So for a start, let's put my feet together and hold. And now that's locking. So once again, I'm going to stack it in, but then I'm going to show you by walking around the other side because I need to show you Opponens Pollicus Longus. So push to mush. Now I need to think about it. So once again, at the moment, I need to stack in the push to mush. So I'm going to do that. It's mouth open, feet together, feet apart, mouth closed. So push to mush. And hold. Once again, haven't done anything with this side. Now in order for me to be able to walk, because my feet are this far apart, I'm going to hold my hand open. Walk to the other side so I can talk, I can walk. And now from this side, let's recheck. So once again, I need to put it back into my hips so that I can do a muscle test. So feet together, feet apart, that's changed the stack. So now hold up for me. So that side's fine. Hold up for me. That side's still unlocking. So that shows that the stack is still in my hips. Once again, I can open that and then I can walk back around. I know it seems like a silly little example, and that's me switching it back on again. So now it's back into my hips again. I often touch the body, again, you don't have to do that, but I know, being a physical therapist, I do believe that touch is important. So quite honestly, we're constantly stacking in people's emotional stuff throughout a balance. So I don't think there's any amount of emotional gear you can stack in that's too much if you're trying to help people to heal. So, and I'm sure once again, you find that as a massage therapist all the time. Touch is so crucial. So once again, hold up for me, still unlocking, and hold. So that's how simple stacking is, but it's so powerful. And I know that doesn't seem powerful because all we've done is stored and unlock. But once again, just say you had a client who's been traumatized, just say you've got a child who's having learning problems, just say you've got, someone who's been coming back from the brink, after some big trauma in their life. These are the sort of things that can just help to bring their, sort of help to take chaos from their brain and their lives. So any questions on the stacking?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I love the jaw. So once again, it depends where you are on the body as to, I will mention one more thing. The good thing about Shelby is that she has hips as well. So it means that just say as a pracky, I needed to go to the loo, or I needed to go grab a flower essence, or I needed to do something. If I put her feet together and pull her feet apart, then I can go away. And she's got the stack. So that's another really powerful tool. So then I can whip off and do whatever I need to do, come back, and once again, if I just touch Shelby, my jaw open, my jaw open, feet together, feet apart, and now I've got the stack again. So stacking is powerful. So the difference between the jaw, the opponent's pollicis, and the hips, those three you can use, but you're getting little snapshots. So they're the sort of things, if I am doing a muscle test and something starts to unlock, it's at the very, very start of the unlock that you need to stack that in. By the time you've gone through a muscle unlock, by the time you're down here, you've lost it. The energy is right at the top, and you never ever know if a muscle's going to lock or unlock. So that's why I'm a hyper stacker, because I really don't know what's going to lock and unlock in someone's body. I will have an educated guess, having done 1 million muscle tests in 23 years, but really, I believe it's safer as a kinesiologist to believe that you don't know the answer before you check it. Once we start getting into that space where we're thinking, I know what this is going to be on this person, then we're getting into more psychic and mediumship, and that's a whole other level. That's not what kinesiology is about. It can be, but it's not in this circuit. So if we are doing something for this, and the reason I say that is that I know a lot of really good practitioners who they have a concept of what they're going to do, and they do it, and they say, oh yeah, it was exactly like what I thought it was. And then I wonder how much of that is mind over matter. You know, whereas I have really spent 20 years telling my brain, no, you don't know the answer. The body will tell you, and it does, and then I'm often surprised with what shows up. And to be honest, it's more fun as a kinesiologist not to know what the answer is. Just saying. So stacking. So we need to have something open at all times. So once again, going through a stack. For a start with the circuit retaining mode, it's over the right shoulder, whip over the right shoulder. There's a little divot there, and then you need to switch it on. So it's jaw open, feet together, feet apart. Mouth closed, and then you've actually got your stack stored in your hips. And that's turned on circuit retaining mode. So anything your client or your friend or your family would tell you at this point, you can then save that information. So just say they were in a car accident. So you might want to do a whiplash correction on them. So, but what about all the emotional gearing behind the whiplash? The trauma about the money, the trauma about the other person, the trauma about being abused, you know, there's all this stuff. It's not just about the whiplash. It's not. So there's always that. There's the biochemistry that happens in the body at the moment of the whiplash. It's the emotional stuff about everything behind that. How am I going to cope? What am I going to tell my partner? You know, all of that gear, as well as the physical whiplash. The physical whiplash is minor a lot of the time. So if you get someone to talk about, you know, what happened at the moment of a trauma, you're getting all of that detail, all of that data, so that you can help to balance that out. Then when you get to that, and I go back to that point all the time through balances. As soon as someone starts saying, oh yeah, that's right, this reminds me of when I was in grade 5 and this little girl was bullying me and yada, yada, yada. So I'm back at this point, I'm stacking that in, you know, because I really believe that all that is crucial. It's crucial. So once again, once they've told their story, jaw open, feet together, feet apart. So that's press save. So until then, it's sort of like saving. Then you've got to switch it off and press save. And now I've got all of that story in my hips. So then any time throughout a balance, whether you're doing any particular muscle test, you can save that information. But stacking is one of the most important tools as a kinesiologist you will ever learn, because it means that and I know it seems like a bit of a party trick, but it's not just about being a party trick. It's about being a tool that will allow you so much more information. When I remember where I was, the circuit retaining mode, I was in a SIPS course with Lynn McCall, and she was telling us about how when you muscle test, you can get any muscle back up and running fairly quickly. But she said as soon as you start adding in the data or the information behind when the pain started anywhere in the body, all of a sudden it's a much bigger correction to correct the muscle. Because all of a sudden the muscle's gone, oh my gosh, you're going to help me deal with this? This is amazing. So the body wants it. The body sucks it up. It just goes, yes, please heal me. The body wants to be well, and so does the brain. So Any questions on the stacking, do you think?
Don't think so.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you.